Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those that don't know me, my name is Jhonelle. I'm a board certified family nurse practitioner, and here we talk about all things health, wealth, beauty, and self-development. Now, if you like this content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you like the video, make sure you hit like so I can share more of this content with you. Now, today we're going to be discussing my first year as a nurse practitioner. How did that go? Were there any struggles? Were there any pros, cons? So let's get right into it. My first year as a nurse practitioner, I worked at a hospital, an orthopedic hospital on the Upper East Side in New York City, and I was interventional radiology nurse practitioner. Now, because the hospital were so specialized, we only saw patients with orthopedic issues and ailments. In that job, the main job requirement was to place PICC lines. Now, you would probably say, well, that's not a role for a nurse practitioner. I mean, it is, but a nurse can do that. And so it wasn't, they didn't really have a clear defined role for the NP in an orthopedic hospital setting. So because most of the PAs were with the orthopedic surgeons, in ORs with them, seeing their patients in the clinic. So it was very new. The nurse practitioner role was very new in that hospital at the time. So they were trying to find or establish a place for us as nurse practitioners. As sad as that sounds, but I feel that we've come far, and that institution in particular has come far in providing more roles for nurse practitioners. So there, as I mentioned, working in interventional radiology, I was placing mainly PICC lines. I was so appreciative for that role because I love working with my hands. I do a bit of aesthetics, as I mentioned in previous videos. So that's where I realized, like, I love anything with my hands. The downside to it, though, I wasn't diagnosing, I wasn't assessing, I wasn't treating patients. It was mainly just placing these PICC lines under fluoroscopy guidance. Learned a lot, but I didn't stay in that role for too long because I wanted more in my first year of being an NP. And so I moved on to a bigger hospital on the Upper East Side, and I took on a role as a nurse practitioner working in anesthesiology, which is very different from a CRNA. It was pain management. So I worked with the attendings and the fellows in the anesthesia department, seeing patients in the clinic as well as in the inpatient units, which was very fun, very exciting. The only thing I didn't like about it, there wasn't much training offered. I didn't have anyone to shadow outside of the attendings and the fellows. But I also felt like there wasn't space for me. Like, I was just kind of in the corner trying to get the tidbits of knowledge that I could while the attendings were training the fellows. I'm sure that there are other NPs that can relate. It's sometimes hard to get mentorship or a training or a shadowing when you graduate. And I'm not sure how it works for the PAs, but I do feel that with physician assistants, they're provided with more clinical training and hours than we are. So kind of when we get out there, it's a lot of having to figure it out. And that's what I experienced in this role. It was a lot of having to figure it out in the shadow of the attending and the fellow, and picking up the pieces and educating myself where I could. And in addition to learning what I learned in practice and in clinic, I would try and build on that knowledge when I got home. It definitely was not easy. In retrospect, I wish I was in a situation where I was taken under an attending's wing like the fellows, so that I was able to absorb more and be able to apply that in practice a bit more. But don't get me wrong, I did learn a lot, and the fellows did teach me a lot during that experience. At the time, I also didn't have a very supportive office manager. She didn't have a nursing background or a medical background for that matter. So it was a bit challenging in pretty much asserting myself and just positioning myself in a way to be respected. I felt like they just looked at me as a helper. So that energy did not resonate with me. It really didn't. It really did not. So I said, I'll take what I can. I'll learn what I can. And what was really cool about it, in the inpatient unit, I rounded with the fellows. So I went from different units, from cardiothoracic to pain to seeing sickle cell patients and addressing their pain on the unit. So that was very interesting. I learned so much. I just wish I was more supported and I had a group of NPs going through this experience with me, as opposed to me just tagging along. But as I said, I tried to absorb as much as I could. And then as far as in the practice side of things, clinic side, outpatient, um, there I kind of forced myself into seeing patients with the attendings when the fellows weren't there, so I could learn and properly assess, properly treat, diagnose the orthopedic pain management patient. And then after that, I went into another very hands-on role in pain management, sort of, which was ketamine treatment. Now, ketamine has been in the scenes for the past few years, recently got FDA approved for treatment-resistant depression. Anesthesiologists also use it for sedation and for pain management. So I found myself going to work at a ketamine clinic, addressing those, treating patients with treatment-resistant depression and chronic pain with ketamine, working underneath an anesthesiologist. Again, I am not a CRNA. It is important that you work within your scope. So primarily there, again, I was just placing IVs, something a nurse can do. You're absolutely right about that. But again, it just really reaffirmed and reinforced how much I enjoyed working with my hands in a procedural type of way. With that said, I was like, you know what, Jhonelle, this is great, but you're back to where you are. Let's try to get you in a position where you're actually doing what you should be doing as a nurse practitioner, treating patients. That's what you went to school for. So I challenged myself to not only keep the ketamine job, but pick up other jobs on a per diem part-time basis so that I can learn a bit more as a practitioner and become more confident in the field. So I started picking up these jobs in pain management where I would shadow the physician or anesthesiologist for a week and just grasp what I could. And slowly but surely, I was getting comfortable with seeing patients on my own and diagnosing them, treating them, prescribing medications for them, meanwhile still working at the ketamine clinic. And then a great opportunity came where a physiatrist was looking for a nurse practitioner to pretty much run his practice. And so I took that on. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but he was also affiliated with a chiropractor who was looking for a nurse practitioner. And there, the role that they sought out was for functional medicine and an orthopedic nurse practitioner. Now, functional medicine is something that I had always wanted to do. I love preventative medicine. I love wellness. And I was like, I can really learn and benefit from that. And so I had the ortho pain management piece down. And the chiropractor at this new facility was willing to train or provide me with the education and training so that I could start seeing functional medicine patients. And so I did a combination of seeing functional medicine patients and seeing orthopedic patients. That's where I got most of my experience and doing it on my own. It was nerve-wracking. I won't lie to you. I, for a long time, didn't think I knew what I was doing. But my patients were getting results. So I guess I was doing something right. Actually, I know I was doing something right. So it's important for you as a practitioner if you see certain opportunities present themselves to you, go for it. If it's and of course, your license, you want to protect your license at all times. So don't go into a role where you're not comfortable, or liability is an issue. But if all those ducks are in order, definitely take on that challenge, because you'll learn so much. You will learn so much, so much about yourself and so much about patients. And it's so important as a nurse practitioner to continue educating yourself. Within these experiences, you're going to realize that education and learning never stops. So if you can find a company or a doctor that's willing to invest in you, invest in your education, take that on. You will not regret it. Long story short, that's how I transitioned from my first year of being a nurse practitioner into years later, when I was doing more of the nurse practitioner role in the wellness setting. And I'll in a future episode, if you're interested, I can dive more into how that job went, what classes I needed to take, how it impacted me, and how it's affected me to this day, being the more well-rounded, confident nurse practitioner that I am. I say all of this to say it was not easy. It really wasn't easy. There were bumps, there were trials, there were tribulations. I had to really, stick with it to win it, to get where I am today. So I encourage you to just make sure you have a support system through that. If you have other nurse practitioners that you can call on to ask questions, if you are uncertain, even keeping attendings and physicians' contacts in your phone is a huge help, because most of them are always willing to help, even if you move on from that position. So networking and keeping those contacts is very important. There will be challenges. But you work through them. You work through them by staying positive and knowing that you can do it. It might seem very hard in the beginning or even during the process, but for sure you're able to accomplish it. So hopefully this is an inspiration and a motivation for you to keep going. If it's your first year of NP, being a nurse practitioner, or your second, just keep going. Seek out those opportunities, take on the challenges head on. You got this. Trust me, it'll work out in the long run. Again, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far, if you like the content, please hit the subscribe button and like the video so that I can share so much more of this with you. Have a blessed evening. Bye.